Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I am your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, Pacelli.
Hello, hello.
How y'all doing tonight? What you sipping on, Troy?
I just have a Diet Cherry Coke. Auditor Dread was saying, hey, is it a Kraken night? And I'm like, probably not. If you want to catch me drunk, tune in on Fridays. That night, I'm definitely having my weekly drink. Saturdays, sometimes. Sunday, almost never, because I got to work tomorrow.
I think next time you get too tipsy, I am going to recommend I'm going to pick a bigger doozy than Roadhouse for you. It's going to happen. We're going to do it anyway. So here we go. Melissa,
Like striptease? Or no. What was it? Wasn't striptease. What was it? It was
what?
What was that one that what's his name kept wanting to get us to watch?
Oh,
Showgirls.
Showgirls.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. There was a guy who was on Daniel's stream. He wants us to do Showgirls too. I think the trouble was it wasn't streaming anywhere, but maybe it is now. But yeah.
Yeah, that can be kind of challenging. Yeah.
All right, so we got Melissa Harrison and Jake, aka Melissa Harrison's Sons 3.0. See you guys at 9. Well, it's 9 now, so welcome. Auditor Dread, good evening. Agent Boomer, Troy Jelly, good evening to you too. Auditor Dread, Horizon Talker, hey folks, hate to drop a like and run, but I got a lot to do tonight, and so I can't stay. I'll catch the clip videos as they drop. Have a great stream.
See, people like those clip videos.
Apology not accept. Yes, I put one up today, by the way. Do you know what it was?
No.
It's our conversation about the Amiga 500 Mini.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm thinking we gotta. I might have a selling point for you because you're gonna be able to drop files on this thing, even the ones that aren't included, right? I know all those King's Quest games were on it.
Oh, okay.
You may want to think about it for that, but we'll see. So you don't like the idea of hooking up a separate keyboard to it when it has a molded keyboard on top.
It doesn't make any sense. Why even bother having it if it's not functional? Charge me extra for it. That's fine.
It's actually, to be fair, I think they did do it with the Commodore 64 Mini. They had the regular that had the molded keyboard, but I think they had another model that actually did have a working keyboard they brought out later on. But
actually, I'm not entirely certain I understand why they're making it mini. Why don't they just make it a full-size re-release?
I'm blaming Nintendo for this because Nintendo came out with the NES Classic a few years ago, and this was like a miniature NES. You plugged it into your HD TV, came with 30 games. Everyone got all excited, and they liked the fact it was mini. Then everybody else follows suit, and everything is mini. I would have rather had full-size replicas.
I mean, you talk about minis. What I find amazing is that whenever they put out these, like 1/12 scale, cabinet games, like arcade games, people will buy them and pose their Mego action figures playing them, because they're like perfectly in scale,
I've seen that.
And I have seen so many things, laptops, game consoles, old computers and everything, that people have done up in 3D, models for you to download off Thingiverse or whatever, so you can make, miniatures in different scales to do dioramas with your dolls, your action figures, your whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I said. So,
Anyway, it's cool hearing from you, Horizon Talker. We'll catch you on the foot. Is Horizon Talker from England?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I know I like the work he produces, but I don't know much about the man behind the horizon, or over the horizon, so to speak.
Netters Network, hi to net. All right, and for anyone else that drops in, hello in the future. I have to say, you didn't ask me what I was sipping on.
What are you sipping on?
I have a big can of peace tea, just peachy.
Just peachy, huh?
With the peace sign and the little the peaches inside the grass.
Oh,
with the peace sign.
It's a hippie drink.
I knew you were gonna say that. Well, I hate to tell you this, I can't find the mucho mango in the big cans anymore. I'm thinking that we're having some shortages on these store shelves. I don't know. What do you think?
Shocker. I'm amazed.
Everything's going to be fine. Happy days are here again.
I'm sure. I'm sure they said that in Cuba just before the revolution too.
Anyway, but I was in the store today, and I was in like some kind of, I guess where they have the exotic food section,
Okay.
and I found a British candy selection.
Sure.
And this was odd, and I'm thinking we get British tourists here in Florida during the summer, and they must have gotten this stuff for them. And I'm looking, and I see a Mars bar,
Yep.
and I saw, and I'm like, well, so I got the Mars bar,
Mm-hmm.
and I brought it home, and I ate it, and I have to say, there were no almonds in it.
Oh, really?
Weren't
Interesting.
there almonds in Mars bars when you were growing up? Weren't there almonds in Mars bars?
Yes,
Wasn't it
but
like
now
an
there are no Mars bars in the United States. You
And I'm
have
wondering-
you have to get oh, what was it? Is like there's like a Snickers almond,
Snickers almond is close,
which is
yeah.
almost exactly the same thing. Yeah.
So I thought that was odd. So I don't know if over in merry old England if they got various kinds of Mars bars, and that maybe we just got the almond variety over here and over there, because this was more like a Milky Way. Okay.
Yeah, so all the grocery stores by us have an aisle that have, I guess they call it like the in quotes ethnic aisle, and you'll have your Italian foods, your Asian foods. That's where you'd find the tortillas and the chilies and the stuff like that. And they have a little section specifically for British foods. And they don't have much at your regular grocery stores.
No,
You'll have a couple candy bars. You'll have digestives. Oh, thank you. Netter just handed me Hershey's with almonds, but
Those are pretty good.
yeah, that's a taste from my childhood.
I
But
don't care for regular Hershey bar, but I like the ones with almonds.
but then what I'll do is I'll take Nanette to World Market, where they have a much better selection of British thing. You get like the digestive biscuits and the different kinds of teas and. Of course, a lot of the different kinds of candies that they have over there. One of the things that we have a real hard time getting is something that Nanette really likes. It's Kendall Mint Cake. And basically what they are is big candy bars that are just like mint. I guess the only way I could describe them is they're like mint sugar cubes. Like really, really dense. And it's just a memory she has from her childhood. Can't find them anywhere in the United States. And importing them is expensive. And the one vendor she found that was importing them from the UK won't do it anymore. So we hit up Bud Boy Productions and said, hey, if we send you the money, can you can you buy us a bunch? And he's
Mint
like,
sugar cubes.
well, they're not. It's more dense than that. It's more like, God, I can't even explain it to you. I mean, they're denser than sugar cubes and not gritty. They're kind of smooth.
Huh.
It's a solid mint brick.
A solid mint brick, yeah, like the inside of your York peppermint patty. If you were to like squeeze it down really hard until it was, like solid, but a whole big, square of it, like a big. Pound-sized candy bar,
Do you put these in like tea? What do you do with them?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can eat them just like that.
Okay.
And their intent is like if you're out hiking or skiing or whatever, just for energy or whatever. But yeah, like you can break off a piece and drop it into your coffee or your hot chocolate or whatever.
Huh.
Gives it a bit of mint flavor, and it's like dropping a sugar cube in it or whatever.
I might try that. That's not bad.
If you can find them, like I said, it's a challenge.
Okay. I'm afraid I have to address what's going on in the chat here.
Uh-oh.
Things. Okay. Melissa Harris, Netflix made a horrible CGI He-Man. Melissa, you haven't even seen it yet, and you're judging it. Honestly, I don't know.
You can't have an opinion until you watch the absolute whole thing, including all the closing credits and the behind the scenes.
Okay, also Auditor Dread. They also made a horrible 2D He-Man. That wasn't technically a He-Man show. That was a Masters of the Universe show. It's not all about He-Man, okay? There are other
No,
characters
clearly it's not. It's all about Tila and her girlfriend.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to satisfy, the trolls that are watching me. I'm on your side, man. I love all of our new modern popular culture. It's awesome. I just
And
okay.
we welcome our communist overlords.
Oh
Hail, comrade.
yeah. Well, anyways, this was a oh crap. iTunes popped on. Don't make fun of me because of my Mac either. Okay, I was getting somewhere with the grocery store story. I also found bag candies in the British Isle, and they had jelly babies.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had a jelly baby in years. Okay, I remember being very lucky. We were in a candy store once, and I found like the scoop candies. They had jelly babies in this one store. I picked up a bunch. Loved them.
Yep.
Got this bag today. Don't know if I care that much for them. They're a little weird. The British like the jellied stuff, right? In the middle
Sure.
of the candies, like the marzipan and all this stuff.
Sure.
Or not marzipan, Turkish delight. That's what I'm thinking
Oh,
of.
Turkish delight. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and just some weird stuff. Okay, and but when I think of jelly babies, you know what pops in my head first, don't you?
Doctor Who.
Yes. So I thought maybe for today's good old days, we could talk about Doctor Who in the 1980s. Bum.
We absolutely could. We absolutely could. So, when you say Doctor Who in the 1980s, you mean Doctor Who in the 1980s in the United States or Doctor Who in the 1980s in Britain? Because keep in mind, we were kind of offset from them by sometimes as much as 5-6 years.
Yes, but I'm mainly talking about 80s era Doctor Who. This begins with the final, I believe the final or second to last season with Tom Baker, right?
Yep.
Where it is basically when we had that new producer. Let me see if I can get his name. But anyway, I remember it started with because basically the show went a completely new direction, starting in the year 1980. Okay, you had that wonderful synthetic rock theme when it popped on, and almost early CG it looked like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the new logo and everything, and this was like Doctor Who for a new decade. I remember.
So I mean, if you're saying for the 1980s, you're probably talking about Jonathan Turner.
Yes, Jonathan Turner. Turner. Yes,
Yeah.
and I remember really digging Doctor Who in the 80s. I kind of got into it more so when TNG kind of had that first season, and I'm like, I'm done with Star Trek for a while. And then I was looking forward to the new Star Trek movie with the old crew coming out, and then it was Star Trek 5, and I was like, And so I started getting into Doctor Who while I took a break from TNG. I got into it again later on. Okay,
Sure.
So just want to know, whenever we talk about these crisis and fandoms and fans and everything else, it's not just now. It's been going on all the time. Okay.
Yeah, that's
We're always
right.
fighting off different things. This latest,
And when you bring up Turner, okay, you're talking about. I mean, talking about him is kind of like talking about Stephen Moffat, where you're like, man, under his watch, we got some of my favorite Doctor Who and some of my least favorite Doctor Who. Really runs the whole gambit,
I mean, you could argue that Doctor Who in the 70s might in some ways was better because you had John Pertwee, you had
great.
Tom Baker. You had Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Brilliant episodes. Tom Baker carried that show so much. You know what I noticed in the Tom Baker era? You wouldn't get the regular villains all the time, like the Daleks or Cybermen. Once in a blue moon, you'd get them. But that didn't matter because what you had replacing all that was still fascinating. Okay, so and
I feel like you got some of the most quotable Doctor Who lines from the Tom Baker era too.
But then John Nathan Turner takes over, and they made some changes to the show. For instance, the Doctor would always have to wear a standard outfit. There was no longer where Tom Baker could change his outfit.
Well, we kind of with Tom Baker with the big floppy hat, big floppy fedora, and the long scarf. You kind of had the start of it there, right?
Yeah,
and then. But then you go into another one of my favorite Doctors. That's Peter Davison, right? And you get
Yes.
things like the weird long coat with the celery stalk, and the now you're starting to get the question marks, playing off the who thing, and it's like, okay, it's silly, but he was a great Doctor. He really was. Some really great episodes. Not necessarily the best companions during that era, but
True.
you know,
Yeah, that was the issue with the Peter Davidson era, was the fact that you had all of these. You had like three. I think it was like a standard was three companions at once for a while, right?
yeah,
Too many companions. The writers had to come up with excuses for why one of the companions couldn't. Oh, Nis has got some alien fever or something. She has to stay in the TARDIS this episode, because they couldn't keep having all four of them on screen at once, because they would run out of things for like the third one to do, right, in the
right.
episode. What I thought
Not
was
to mention, they were working from their pool of British actors and saying, okay, well, you're going to play an American and you're going to play an Australian, and they're like trying their level best to do the appropriate accents
oh
and going,
no, are you saying
aha,
Tegan wasn't Australian?
uh, you know,
I don't know if she was. I knew that Perry wasn't an American, but we'll get to her later on. What I
Perry
found,
was gorgeous though.
no, she was. So the Peter Davidson era, I love that. He
Yeah,
might be my favorite Doctor, and that's saying a lot because we've had a lot of great Doctors. So not trying to poo-poo on any of the
true.
others either, but I did love that era. The cool thing about the Peter Davidson era is any episode, it wasn't like you'd have like these long story arcs that would last the whole season. Like every episode was supposed to be a major story. Do you understand?
Right.
So something major could happen. I remember Earthshock stands out most of all. Remember Earthshock?
Yeah.
That was the episode where the Cybermen returned, and apparently over in England they didn't get to watch the reruns like we did. Okay, and I was watching on the DVD. The one guy was saying, as a fan when he was a kid, he was like, he'd only read about the Cybermen in like books and Doctor Who journals. He'd never seen them in an episode of the show.
That's
So when,
wild. Well, but
yeah,
that's part of the way the syndication, happened in England. Well, or their lack of syndication, I should say,
none.
because and that's also what indirectly led to the first, you know, I was going to say three Doctors, but potentially more. Their recorded episodes being lost because they'd play them the once and
Yep.
they didn't syndicate them, so they're like, well, we don't need to waste space, and these videotapes, holding something we're never going to play again. Because you could say now it was short-sighted, but from their point of view, it makes perfect sense. Legally speaking, they couldn't re-show them. They didn't have a syndication process in place back then.
No, they did not.
And so you're right. Even into the Peter Davison era, they didn't have reruns of these shows, and so yeah, it was not an easy thing to see. In fact, and this was true both in Britain and the United States. Sometimes the only times you would see certain episodes or series of episodes would be at conventions. You would go to conventions. Back in the 70s and 80s, conventions were a little bit different than they are now. You would have 2 or 3 rooms that I guess nowadays you'd call them panel rooms, but back then they were specifically for playing episodes of Doctor Who or Star Trek or something like that. And usually the draw was this was an episode that hadn't been seen in, a long time or whatever.
I remembered, yeah.
That's how I saw a lot of Blake Seven, in fact, before I started seeing it on PBS.
In fact, I think I remember reading a Doctor Who fan scene where some guy was talking about how he had seen some Japanese animated movie with no subtitles, but he thought it was interesting. It was called Akira. He saw that at a convention,
Wow.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's how you saw a lot of these things were at conventions. There was no internet back then, or at least not to the public, and it was but I remember though, the Colin Baker era starts. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Actually, going back to Peter Davidson, though, I did want to mention one thing. I thought he had the best last episode of any Doctor. That final episode of Peter Davidson.
Yeah.
They end
Yeah,
up on that horrible planet with the robots and the androids, and they're like mining this drug that can keep people living forever. And it's almost like a twisted version of Phantom of the Opera, because you have the one guy that got scarred and living underneath, and he's having a fight with his old business partner, and it's a really dark episode.
it is.
And the impression I got from it is that he only found enough of the bat's milk to save Perry, and then he didn't have enough left for him. So he thought, I think we thought, he thought he was going to die right then and there. He wasn't going to regenerate. He's like, I might regenerate. I don't know. It feels different this time. Like he thought he would regenerate. And then you see all of his companions circling his head saying, "Don't die, Doctor. You mustn't
Yeah.
die, Doctor." And then the master shows up in the middle. "No, dear Doctor, you must die." You know, and it's a fascinating sequence. You can find
Which,
it
of course, makes for a great cliffhanger, and you don't know, is he coming back? Are they bringing the show back? Who's the new doctor going to be? All this kind of stuff.
Well, we did find out at the end of that episode, though, because it was Colin Baker.
Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
he goes, and Perry doesn't know what to do. And of course, we see in the first episode, Colin Baker, you didn't care much for that, how he starts
No.
attacking his companion.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that didn't
And
go over well with a lot of people, actually.
and we've had a lot of years to look at that and analyze it and go back to it. There's something to be said for authorial intent, right? But it wasn't done very well. But you almost have to go back to the Tom Baker to Peter Davison. How that was a very different regeneration there too, where you had this other entity, this proto in between doctor that fuses with them, that facilitates the
regeneration process.
And there's still question about what they intended with that and what that was all about. But then the next transition is also difficult, and what they were trying to do was they were trying to make it so that there was some drama to it, so that you didn't always feel like, well, the doctor can't die. He's just always going to regenerate. And I do think the one thing they did establish is, look, no. And if it wasn't clear then, it got cleared up in the Davies era, when the doctor specifically says, "Oh, I absolutely can die. If I die, I die. That's it. But if I'm dying and I have the time, I have the ability to regenerate, and this is the trade-off." But so they were trying to inject that level of drama into it, but they did it very ham-fistedly, and it turned a lot of fans off for a long time. I know Nanette said she stopped watching Doctor Who after the first few episodes of Colin Baker, and so she never even got around to seeing what's his name, the
what?
The one that came after him, the
Sylvester McCoy.
Sylvester McCoy, thank you. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of fell away from it about the same time, not necessarily for the same reason Nanette did, not because I actually had not seen a lot of Colin Baker's episodes. It was really hard because here in Chicago, we picked it up on WTTW Channel 11, the PBS channel, and it was like late night Sunday night, and it was not common for me to be able to stay up late and watch it. So I missed a lot of the Colin Baker era, not through any choice of my own, and just kind of, lost the momentum by the time Sylvester McCoy came along. So
I'll give you a little bit of a summary. The first season with Colin Baker, because that first episode was actually the final episode of that Peter Davison season.
Right.
They decided, let's front load the new Doctor in right away, which was a mistake. They should have waited. But the rest of the season wasn't bad. But it got kind of dark. Okay, I would argue that was a very dark Doctor Who season. Like, there was this, like, they arrive at this one health clinic on this planet, and then it turns out that they're turning people into Daleks, and Davros is behind the whole thing. Okay, so he's having to make humans into Daleks, because he can't control his original creation, right? And then the
Right.
regular Daleks show up and they have a fight out with his new Daleks, and it kind of a dark episode though. But I got into it around that. I cut Colin Baker's Doctor some slack. We didn't get the following season. That thing never got made because the BBC was threatening to cancel, so they decided to get rid of those. The next slate of episodes they had, I think they got turned into Big Finish productions, though.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
a big. It was really about ratings. It was about a lot of fans that found that, first either just were turned off by trying to kill his companion from the onset, and even though, and I have subsequently seen those episodes. Like I said, I got them all on
yeah,
DVD now.
yeah,
It did, start to swing back up, but in a very kind of clunky way. And he was always a very abrasive doctor,
yes.
and that turned off a lot of people. So yeah, there was a long hiatus there before they got back to, long for back then anyway.
Yeah, then they did the Trial of a Time Lord episode,
Right.
which was basically that was almost like a season-long story arc where he's on trial and they're having to watch his adventures as they unfold. So you got like the adventure in the episode, but then also it got interrupted with trial portions, and he was being
Right.
put on trial by
So
another
you could
Time
think
Lord
of it as a
named
clip
Baliar.
show, but it's I always thought of it as the way a clip show should be done. I mean,
Where
they
it's
had
not
many, many, many seasons of episodes to draw from.
well, no, but that Trial of a Time Lord, they weren't necessarily they were taking clips from episodes that we hadn't seen. These were original stories written for Trial of a Time Lord.
Oh,
You know what
yes,
I'm
you're
saying?
right.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right. You're right.
I think you're thinking of maybe the first trial when it was
I was thinking of the one with Tom Baker. Yeah.
yeah. But what I thought was neat about this, though, is that they, you know, and of course, you find out Perry's fate, which is people go back and forth as to what happened to her, but it's kind of a dark fate when it's originally revealed what happens to her. But I
Right.
think it also raises the stakes. And then it kind of just disappears, and we get Sylvester McCoy, and they didn't even bother to get. They couldn't get what's his name back for
Yeah,
regeneration.
he wouldn't come back. He was he wasn't treated very well.
No.
And I mean, I actually had a talk with Colin Baker when he was here in the States a couple of years back at
Oh wow.
Chicago
Okay.
TARDIS, and I just got to tell you, he's a heck of a nice guy. He really is. He
Yeah.
is totally not that doctor.
No, I think he had problems with some of the lines too. Like
He did.
he didn't like that outfit. He wanted to wear a suit. He said
That's what he said too.
Yeah.
And he said, every fan that I talk to, I feel like I have to apologize for what I did to the doctor. And I'm like, most of us have grown up understanding that you're an actor and you don't really have a choice. He goes, that's true, but I felt bad about it because I knew what I was doing at the time and it made me angry. I'm like, okay, so this guy totally gets it. And he has done so many things since leaving Doctor Who that have really endeared himself to the fans, including like working on, fan films actually,
Exactly. Yeah.
and stuff like that. He's made it very clear that he really does have a love for the whole concept of Doctor Who, and really would have done it differently had he had the choice to do it. But yeah, he felt very alienated by the production, and so he would not come back. Most fans at this point don't blame him.
I think that's why now they have a regeneration clause in the contract. You have to come back for the regeneration scene.
Yeah.
But we get Sylvester McCoy later on, and some people they love that era. I'm not a fan. I remember being a kid watching this and thinking I had issues with it. For starters, you can tell when you find out later on what was going on behind the scenes. The guy running the BBC had it in for Doctor Who. He wanted it gone. So you
Yeah.
can tell that the budgets are even lower than they've been before. Okay,
Yeah.
and you can tell, and I know that they were doing their best. Okay, I'm sure. I'm not picking on the writers behind the scenes. I'm sure they were doing everything they could. But I also noticed there was a lot of things going on where they were trying to wrap things up. Okay, for instance, I noticed the episode where with the Daleks when Davros came back, the Doctor tricks Davros into blowing up his own planet, blowing up Skaro. And I always kept the idea that they were trying to wrap things up. Getting rid of Skaro. They did something with the Cybermen too, where they were weaker than they usually were, and I kind of felt like the show was winding down. The trouble was when the show went off the air, I didn't know it had gone off the air. You know,
Yeah,
I'm tuning into PBS next year. Where's the new slate of Doctor Who? There is none. What's going on here?
yeah.
Then you find out a couple years later, oh, that show got canceled ages ago, and like you don't know at the time.
Well, yeah. What happened was by the end of Sylvester McCoy, they did a fast one. They didn't actually cancel it. They just put it on hiatus and
Oh,
then
really?
never renewed it. And so, in theory, it was never really canceled. But after you lose that much momentum, you kind of need a reboot, and that's what eventually in '96 leads us to, the reboot with Fox, which
Didn't take
that's
off.
a whole nother story, and that's definitely getting
Say
us
that
out
for
of our
another
'80s
time.
era. But what I did want to mention about the Sylvester McCoy era, and I'm not sure if you were aware of this, have you ever heard the phrase the Cartmel Master Plan?
No.
Okay. So this all has to do with Andrew Cartmel, the script editor. He had this whole idea that they were going to start digging into the Doctor's backstory. Okay, like first Doctor, how he became who he was, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And they seeded in some lines here and there where Sylvester McCoy is referred to as a Time Lord, and he goes, "I am not just a mere Time Lord. You have no idea who I am," or something like that, giving the impression that he's someone more important. And they had already established this concept that the Time Lords had gotten their regeneration ability and time travel and all that stuff because of Rassilon,
Yeah.
Omega, and the Other. No one knew who this Other was, and they were planning it out so that the Doctor was going to be the Other, and it was going to be a wibbly wobbly kind of situation where this Doctor of today, one of the Doctors, either today or a future Doctor or whatever, was going to go back to the dawn of Time Lord history and play this role of the Other with Rassilon and Omega. And it was actually a brilliant idea that never really saw its fruition in the Sylvester McCoy era. Just some seeds were laid, but not so big a ones that they actually had to amount up to anything. And it's been kind of explored a little bit in some of the Big Finish and so on and so forth. And this is where people start to try to use this as an argument to support the chicanery that's been going on with Chin Balls and his whole thing. But it's like, yeah, no, if he's going back to the Cartmel master plan, he's effed that up in a huge way. But the original idea was great.
Right.
And it did give us some of our best Sylvester McCoy moments. But yeah, it never really did come to anything.
And we never got to see. They were going to introduce him as knowing King Arthur at some point, right? They were going to introduce him as Merlin in a future episode because they
That actually wouldn't have
like,
been a bad idea.
he was going to end up being Merlin. Okay, but no, that didn't end up happening. Because I guess to someone in medieval times, if you see the Doctor doing all this amazing stuff, they think he was a wizard, right? So
Right.
But anyway, that's
And that's why, unfortunately, in the earlier Doctor eras, he had run into other Time Lords, throughout history, that had carved out a niche for themselves or whatever, like the Mad Monk or whatever, or
yeah.
whatever.
I used to read that in the manuals and stuff.
And there were some other ones too. And interesting stories, but I always thought, like you said, what if there were other Time Lords that were people in history like Merlin? Or I really thought with Last Christmas that they were going to do it where we were going to find out that Father Christmas was a Time Lord, and unfortunately that didn't pan out. But that would have been a really good story.
When was the last time I saw a good Christmas special on Doctor? I'm being mean. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just the Doctor Mysterio one. I don't know. I didn't. Did you like
Yeah.
that one? I didn't care.
It
Anyway,
wasn't bad, but it
yeah,
wasn't good. Yeah.
it was a little too. I want to like these things. Anyway.
Yeah.
Did want to welcome to the chat Wolf 10 Media. Welcome.
Hey, Wolfie.
Good to see you. Zootopia. Good to see you as well. But yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention though, I did own the Doctor Who playset when I was a kid. I had to save up all my money, and this was a import from England. But I guess
Mm-hmm.
they had someone in an American company, and I got the TARDIS playset, and the TARDIS console was battery operated, and guess what?
Hmm.
It was a Pentagon. They
Oh,
messed it up.
yeah, they did. Was this
Okay,
with the Mego figures?
they were like the Star Wars figure size, if that's what
Oh,
you're
okay.
thinking
So,
of.
so
But
3 3/4 inch. Okay.
they were cheap too. They break easy. But anyway, I used to have Daleks in that size and Cybermen. But
Sure.
anyway, it just that. Let me tell you something though. I'm going to say this: being a Doctor Who fan in the '80s, you think you got into trouble if you were a Star Trek fan. You
Uh-huh.
have no idea that like Doctor Who was top tier nerd stuff to be into. Am I wrong?
Because whereas Star Trek was pretty ubiquitous, it was constantly in syndication. You could catch it after school and on Sundays and stuff like that. But Doctor Who, like I said, for us, here in Chicago. It was like 10, 11 o'clock on PBS. It was not an easy catch. So you had to go out of your way to nerd out.
Oh, you mean to tell me this was the flippin' beginning? You son of a gun. I don't know. The beginning of what? Me being into geek culture? I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. No. Well, yeah. Probably. Pretty much. Actually, I think Star Trek before that, but because I love those movies, and that got me to. Let's move on. Speaking of the home of Star Trek, which it isn't, Paramount Plus. We got news for that. What do we think?
Well, we've already kind of covered the whole thing that CBS All Extortion went away and it became Paramount Plus. Well, now Paramount Plus is already starting to lose worldwide market share because they're being dumped by the Scandinavian countries, and the channel that's now going to be carrying Star Trek is going to be Sky Showtime, apparently.
Okay, Viacom CBS has decided to shut down the standalone version of Paramount Plus in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland, less than a year after the streamer hit the stream. Less than a year after launching the streamer in the Nordics,
Mm-hmm.
and will merge with new Sky Showtime service coming 2022. On Wednesday, Comcast and Viacom CBS announced their formation of a joint venture that will introduce the Sky Showtime subscription video on demand service in 22 European territories. So they're merging it with Showtime. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, I guess Sky Showtime is some sort of a Viacom CBS affiliate overseas.
Okay, so that's what we call Showtime over here?
I
Maybe?
suppose there's a connection. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. A source familiar with the media conglomerate strategy told Variety that Comcast and Viacom CBS concluded that learning up in a JV would be the most economically viable way to enter a particular set of European markets, which included the Nordic countries. A rep for Viacom CBS said that Paramount Plus in the Nordics is continuing with full investment, and in 2022, it is anticipated that it will be moved into Sky Showtime. Okay, so do you think this is a forecast of things to come?
I am not certain, and here's the biggest question that this article brought up for me. And tell me if you have any understanding on this or any insight, Boomer.
Sure.
But they specified that it was video on demand, right? That's what
Yeah.
VOD is.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's a pay-per-view kind of a thing?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because I know what you're thinking. When I was first introduced to video on demand, I always figured this is like you're getting the latest WWE wrestling thing or a boxing match or the latest movie, and you pay the amount for it, and it gets shown on your TV.
Right.
However, I noticed years later, like cable services and other things would start allowing you to do video on demand. In fact, we have satellite for the time being. How much longer? Who knows? But
Right.
you get to select on demand items from there, and it's sort of like how you get with streaming, where you can select any like I want to watch the latest. For instance, I want to watch the latest episode of the Gordon Ramsay show. Okay, so I'll click enter, and it'll like download it from the satellite or across the internet or whatever, and then you can watch it.
Gotcha.
And you don't pay for it because it's something that would have been shown.
You're already paying for the service, but you can see it when you want to.
And you can see it when you want to. So that's sort of what that means. Now, then again, it could mean what you mean too, that there's some kind of pay thing involved. But I think if you're already subscribing to Sky Showtime, I don't know.
Okay, so regardless, though, what that does mean, though, whether it's a pay-per-view situation or it's just like you were describing, you're literally choosing what you watch when you watch it. This still gives them the numbers for how often someone decides to eat up their bandwidth by downloading an episode of Mikey Spock and Friends.
Yeah. But let's see. The new Sky Showtime service from Comcast Vodcast is expected to launch in 2022, subject to regulatory approval. It will eventually be available to consumers in Albania, Andorra, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Hungary, Kosovo, Montenegro, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland. My goodness. Okay, yeah. Portugal, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia.
It also makes me wonder if this, if the fact, the name Showtime, if they are affiliated with, Showtime, entertainment, if this means that revenue is being shared there, and therefore it's not an exclusive Paramount, money maker.
Okay. Am I going to sound really ignorant if I say that I've never heard of Andorra? That's a country?
I don't know. Maybe one of those new ones.
Never mind. Okay. All right. So, listen to me. I don't know. I can tell you that I've not been impressed with Paramount Plus. I went on a rant.
Well, I mean, just these. Every time you see a change like this, it tells me they're struggling. They're really just trying to get content out to people, and they are the little fish in a very, very, very big pond, and they're getting eaten up.
Yeah, well, there only can be a few winners of the streaming wars. I mean, how many streaming giants can there be? That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. But speaking of streaming wars, okay. Hotel Transylvania 4 skipping theaters as Sony nears a $100 million deal with Amazon. I almost feel like Sony are sitting the streaming wars out. I could be wrong. Actually, I can't say they are because they're cornering the anime market.
Yeah,
they bought Crunchyroll, so they're going to be cornered. But I don't know. I look at this Hotel Transylvania 4. Okay,
I have some thoughts about this, but why don't you fill everyone in first before I get into that?
All right. Any of you Hotel Transylvania fans in the chat?
Nanette and I are.
Okay,
we've seen the first three.
Okay, all right, so you know more.
I mean, we're not like, oh my gosh, what's going on with Transylvania 4?
It's okay if you like it. I haven't seen them myself. I can't judge. Okay,
we've enjoyed them. If they were doing something really offbeat here with this fourth movie, we would not be going,
It's like a monster
like the whole He-Man thing or anything like that for us. This is just whatever. We've enjoyed the movies. In fact, the third one was out for, I don't know, over a year, and we were like, oh, there was a third one? Okay, well, let's get around to watching that one. But we'll still, every now and again, we'll be somewhere, and especially around Halloween, for whatever reason, something will jog our memory, and one of us will say to the other, I do not go, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so Dracula's in it, and I guess
Frankenstein
and the Mummy and other characters.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that it's kind of that whole like monsters concept where you have your famous monsters that a new generation is coming along, and it's kind of silly, family kind of fun. Yeah, it's been pretty good.
Okay. So I'll read the article. Sony Pictures Animation and Amazon are nearing a deal for over $100 million for the animated feature Hotel Transylvania Transformania, To stream globally on Amazon Prime Video, Variety has learned exclusively. Hotel Transylvania has been a monster family franchise for Sony, with the first three films grossing more than $1.3 billion in theaters worldwide since 2012. But the surge in pandemic cases, driven by the highly contagious Delta variant, predominantly infecting unvaccinated people, has made, I love how they throw that in there, has made theatrical exhibition of family pics untenable since is no vaccine yet for children under 12. With New York City enacting a vaccine mandate for indoor venues on Tuesday, and other major cities seriously considering their own, sources say that in early August, Sony began exploring an alternative release for the fourth Hotel Transylvania movie, which has been slated to open in theaters on October 1st. Sony will retain rights to home entertainment, linear TV, and Chinese exhibition, according to a source with knowledge of the deal. As the only major studio without a dedicated streaming service, Sony has struck deals for films on its 2020 and 2021 slates across the streaming ecosystem. In 2020, Sony placed Greyhound with Apple TV Plus and American Pickle with HBO Max, and Happiest Season with Hulu. This year, the studio has worked with Netflix for Fatherhood, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Vivo, and with Amazon for Cinderella, which will debut on September 3rd. What is an American Pickle?
No idea.
Okay, let's move on.
No idea.
Okay, but this is billed as the
I mean, if you were to tell me something like this was something on a certain adult hub channel, I would believe you.
Okay. Billed as the final chapter of the Hotel Transylvania series, Transformania is directed by Derek Dryman and Jennifer Kluska, from a script by Amos Vernon, Nunzio Radazzo, executive producer Gendy Tartakovsky. Okay. That's a Samurai Jack guy. Brian Hull and Brad Abrell are respectively voicing the roles of Dracula and Frankenstein, replacing original stars Adam Sandler and Kevin James.
Yep.
What?
Yep. Okay. And that leads directly into my perspective on this.
All right. What do you have? What thoughts do you got?
Okay. So we're talking about a family cartoon series, right? I don't really... This is, of course, a smaller studio. This is Sony. We're not talking Disney here. But Look at what Disney did back in the 80s and the 90s, right? Where they were doing all these cartoon series, what do you call it? Sequels to their big budget films,
like
right?
Return of Jafar and...
Return of Jafar and Bambi's children or whatever. I don't know. And they were crap, really. Okay. They were crap, right? And what happens is they churn out these half-hearted sequels and release them directly to DVD, right? Back then, this was before, the streaming wars and everything, so everything went directly to DVD. And people would say, yeah, Cinderella 3 sucked, but it's a thing that happened, And I'm kind of wondering if they're not really kind of looking at Transylvania for the same way. Because... yeah, okay, fine, CV and Delta Force and all that kind of crap, and that's fine. That's the excuse they're using this year. They had something else last year, and now they're just using the extension of that to argue about it. Okay, fine, whatever. But the reality is, the fact that they replaced bigger name voice actors with, your second tier voice actor. Nothing against them. I'm sure they're going to do a great job, but they're not going to have the pull that, an Adam Sandler has and whatnot. So they're already cutting costs, okay? Trying to maximize. And this is what I said I was expecting Hollywood to be doing anyway. They're going to start cutting costs. The stars are not going to be making as much money. They're going to be getting lesser known talents, sometimes better talents, but lesser known talents nonetheless, that they are paying less money so that whatever profit they make is that much more profit, right? This is why Blumhouse is doing such a phenomenal job on mediocre films. Mediocre to good. I mean, they've had some good films, right? Low-cost films, higher profits, maximize, the bottom line. And I see that exact same thing happening here. It's just instead of it being direct to video, it's being direct to a stream, and they're even further insulating themselves because they're getting money up front in the deal that they're kind of selling it in a way to Amazon, right? They get $100 million off the top, right? So they've already probably made their profit.
Yeah.
And Amazon gets more content. They're already a pretty good.
It feels like Sony.
And you know what I just realized? This is Amazon, so that means it'll be that much easier for me to catch it. So
yes, you do. You see, this is the thing. You have streaming on there. They do have a lot of stuff on there. You could watch the Tomorrow War if you wanted to. It's on there. What else did I want to say though? But yeah. It does seem like Sony is being very shrewd. Like they're the ones that are just sitting it out. They're like Blofeld wanting the United States and the Soviet Union to go to war so he can take over the world or something like that.
Yeah,
like a Bond villain does. But let's see though. Here,
no, I from a financial standpoint, I think this makes perfect sense. I think this is very analogous to older business models, so I don't see anything new happening here. You just swap out cost savings with, COVID-19 or Delta variant or whatever the hell. But the fact is, it's the same business model. I don't see a problem with this. And as a casual fan of this Hotel Transylvania, not bothered by it in the slightest. Okay. But we will get, as we get into our next couple articles, we're going to talk a little bit more about the whole theater versus streaming thing. I don't think this is the place to have that conversation. Not on Hotel Transylvania.
I did want to comment. Otter Jet said all those Lion King, Aladdin, straight to DVD sequels sucked. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of fans feel very strongly about it. I'm like, I think that the Lion King, there was a Lion King like 1.2 or 2.5 or something like that. It's supposed to take place contemporaneously with one of the other films, and you see everything from Pumbaa's point of view or whatever. I mean, I got a kick out of that because I saw that as being very much like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, where you see Hamlet from the point of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. I mean, it's like, okay, I dig this. I dig what they're going for. If they did more of this kind of thing, I'd be really, really happy with it.
Here's the deal. I think what they are is a mixed bag. Like Wolf Ted Media say, hey, what do you got against Simba's Pride or King of Thieves? King of Thieves was interesting because they were finally able to bring back Robin Williams for the genie in that one.
Yeah.
And as for Return of the Jafar, I don't hate that all that much. Here's what it is. I saw that as a pilot for the series.
Yeah.
They were going to make an Aladdin TV series. So they had to set up a pilot for, which I actually did enjoy the Aladdin.
But on the other hand, I would say a series nobody asked for or wanted. So,
I liked it. I thought it was what, listen to me. It's not going to be as big a budget as the theatrical release. Now, there were other ones, though, like the Cinderella 2, and someone was mentioning in the chat that Cinderella 3 was actually better than
Which
2.
was the one that had a bunch of time travel? That one sucked. Was it Cinderella or was that...
No, I didn't really watch
Sleeping Beauty or someone like that had a time travel story. And it's like, oh, dear God, no, please.
You know what? That might be something... No, let's not go there. I was saying for a Friday.
I am not doing a rewatch of it on a Friday night. There is not enough booze in the world, Boomer.
But it's timey-wimey. You like time travel. You know what? If next time you...
I like good time travel. I do not like bad
do a time travel thing. I think that'll be an idea. You could do the Sleeping Beauty or whatever, doing the time travel thing, and just never mind. Okay.
My fear too is that in modern day, SJW culture, you're going to have Sleeping Beauty, like go back in time, and she's the one that wakes herself up with a kiss or something, and make it all weird and disgusting.
Yeah, well, that's where we're heading. Anyway, moving right along. Now, this article I think we covered last week, but did you want to reiterate it a bit? The Disney in turmoil. Creators not happy with Bob Chapek.
See, I saw this in our notes, and I wasn't sure if I had accidentally left it in from last week
it
or...
ties into the following one, so I'll read a little bit. We'll just revise people on it, okay? So, Wolf 10 Media says, so did Jungle Book 3. The Jungle Book 3 used time travel?
Oh, God.
Does Baloo say, I should have never introduced him to to women. I got to use a time machine. So, is this? Remember the end of Jungle Book when he said, "I'm going to stay in the jungle forever with you," and then he sees a woman and like a young,
Right?
pretty young woman. He's like, "I'm done. I'm going with the humans." It's like that was the last one that was made while Walt Disney was still alive. Actually, was Jungle Book. Okay. But Disney in turmoil. Creators are not happy with Bob Chapek. Well, let's read a little bit. Right, I've got some pretty hot news for you guys. That not me, the person who wrote the article, and I got some pretty hot news for you guys that has to do with Disney and specifically how creators within the company are not happy with Bob Chapek. It seems as though creators inside Disney are not pleased with all the direction Bob Chapek has taken the company in. Chapek is the new president of Disney, taking over from Bob Iger. Yes, we've known about this. Bob Iger has yet to leave.
Yeah.
Okay. I know. Stop singing about Iger. Okay. Here's the close ties. Okay. Disney as a company is doing very well. However, it's in turmoil as far as the creators are concerned. Creators who've had long-standing relationships with Disney and the likes of Bob Iger are not happy at all with the direction Bob Chapek's taken the company. It's actually getting quite bad for them, and there are grumblings from the likes of Pixar that they just want out of the House of Mouse, but that's virtually impossible for them now. There's a lot of infighting between Chapek and his team, who has the shareholders on their side mostly, and the creators, people at Pixar, Marvel Studios, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and now 20th Century Fox. It doesn't look like this rip will be fixed anytime soon, and Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit has really caused a stir. Okay, so we talked about that a bit last week. And what were you saying about
We
that?
did talk about it a bit last week. We talked about it a little bit on Friday on my channel. Of course, Fridays are always a little bit of a blur for me, so I'm not going to remember exactly what we talked about on Friday. But the what I had mentioned before, whether it was last week or Friday or when it was, is we got to first. I would highly encourage you guys, if you guys aren't following Midnight's Edge, you're missing out. That is the site to follow for all of this geeky, analysis, not just news. You can get the snippets from us, but they dig deep, into the business end of a lot of these things. Andre, who's the guy in charge over there, is a money guy from over in the Netherlands, of course. Mexican Iron Man Mikey, he's an accountant here in the U.S. South. He's a Southerner. He'll tell you that. And they got people like Script Doctor and Kamran Pasha and Tom Conkle who work in Hollywood and tell you, when you read Variety, when you read Forbes, when you read what they're saying, what you read and what the people in the industry are reading are two very different things. It's two different audiences. And this is a perfect example, and this is what Kamran Pasha was saying about this particular article. When they say creators, it's like Inigo Montoya. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means, right?
Yeah.
Creators, what you think it means, and what they mean when they say it are two very different things. You think creators, you think the writers, the producers, the directors, the actors, and all of those creators. No. What they mean are people that don't actually do any real creating. They call themselves creators, but they are not creators. They are recreators. They are rebooters. They are story thieves, is what they are.
Basically, they're the ones that make all the big money off of the Winter Soldier.
They're exactly. So when we say creators, we mean George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, guys that took original ideas and made the franchises we love. Who no one knew who they were before then, and now they're these monoliths of culture to us, right?
Not the people that repackage things.
But what these creators are that they're talking about are people like Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy and Ruin Johnson and J.J. Abrams and these chuckle fucks who haven't created anything. All they've done is taken someone else's work and shit all over it. Okay.
Zootopia says if Bob gets rid of Kathleen Kennedy, I will be his biggest fan. Well, we have to wait and see. The only thing I have heard rumor-wise is that he He's trying to make contracts shorter.
And that's exactly the kind of thing we're talking. That's why Kathleen Kennedy and now Kevin Feige is getting very, very worried, because he's finding himself in the exact same position where they have these sweetheart deals, and we're talking about 2, 3, 4 year contracts that they can't get out of. And now, the investors are going, what the fuck? Why do we still have Kathleen Kennedy working for us? Why do you have extended contracts with her and all this bullshit? And Bob Chapek is going, yeah, you're right. We're not going to be doing that anymore. We're going to be going to a year-by-year contract. And at the end of that year, we're going to look at your body of work and evaluate if you were if it's financially feasible to keep you around. If you were an earner or you were a leech. And if you're a leech, we're not going to contract with you again. But if you were someone that produced something and you're valuable, we'll keep you around. So basically what he's saying is, we're not going to be keeping people like Kathleen Kennedy, but we will keep people like Jon Favreau. So Kevin Feige, which one are you going to be?
Well, we'll touch on that in a little bit.
And we got a lot of people that are going, oh, well, I don't like that. I don't like having to produce. I want to keep making money without having to do anything and just go on junkets and talk a bunch of bullshit and make myself sound good. Isn't that enough for me to be rich and going to the cocktail parties? And Bob Chapek and all the stockholders are going, no, it's not.
Well, we'll see. We have some controversy coming later with Bob Chapek. But
Yep.
The next article we have is Free Guy debuts at 28 million. Suicide Squad drops to 7 million in the United States. Okay. I'll read a bit for this. You know what Free Guy is, Troy?
Yeah, it's a Ryan Reynolds thing about an NPC that becomes self-aware or something like that.
Sounds interesting. I haven't seen it, but
I haven't seen it either, but I've
funny.
heard good things.
If it's like that Deadpool style humor, that might be worth seeing. Free Guy tops the box office with 28 million, while the Suicide Squad saw a major drop off. Ever since the theaters opened back up, the box office has been trying to recover to pre-pandemic normality, with the hope that major tentpole franchises could incentivize audiences to go out to the theaters. Yet rising cases have left many theater goers feeling less confident to venture out to the movies and choosing instead stay at home and stream movies. Well, the Suicide Squad is on HBO Max, right? So does that count for something, or does it not? I don't know. Anyway, opened to number 1 at the box office, but very far below expectations. It opened to 26 million its first 3 days. However, Warner Brothers did boast that the film was the second best premiere weekend for any new film on HBO Max behind Mortal Kombat. So I guess for Warner Brothers day and date release with HBO Max, it did pretty good. Is that what they're setting? I don't know.
Suppose, yeah.
Anyone in the chat see this movie?
Well, like I said, I hadn't, but I just dropped the link. Go check out our friend Big Al at Big Al Presents. He did a review of both of these films, actually. So let me drop both of those links for you, and go see what he had to say about it. Al, he's a pretty positive kind of guy. So spoiler, he kind of liked them both.
To be fair, these both looked better than the usual movies coming out of Hollywood these days. Even though I'm not necessarily a big fan of what they do with DC, this one looked interesting.
They're comparing them because there are two films that recently came out, in release, but there's a lot of differences too. The Suicide Squad, and that's why it's capitalized, The Suicide Squad, as opposed to Suicide Squad, because they're two different movies, right?
Right.
This is a weird. It's a sequel, but it's kind of a reboot, and it's kind of I don't know what they were going for with this. Well, but the bottom line is, it is a sequel to a film that did not do well. Okay, so if you're going to do a sequel to a film that doesn't do well and expect it to do better, I'm sorry.
Well, I think the thing was they brought in Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. Okay, and that was supposed to be the big draw for this. I don't know. Was he advertised in a lot of the advertising that they had this director?
I have no idea.
I thought that was the big draw for this. That if you like,
honestly, the only people that even care about Gunn are Well, actually, there's two groups of people. One are the fans of his from Guardians of the Galaxy. So these diehard fans that they're always pushing away are the only ones that are even going to know who he is in relation to these kinds of movies and would even care about him. And then the other ones are the ones that know why he got canceled off of Twitter and why he was subsequently fired from Disney and eventually brought back. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for your franchise, I don't know. But now we got some new stuff coming out about him. We're not getting into that tonight, but
no. We'll see. I want more. I want more. What is it? More evidence or more stuff coming out about that, just to see. Be fair. That's what I want to be. Okay, even though I would argue some of the stuff he did in the past was in bad taste, but to be fair, that doesn't necessarily mean the other thing. But we'll see.
But yeah, so now, what it comes down to is whether or not a movie does well, and this will get very important in one of our upcoming articles here. Bob Chapek is saying, look, we're starting to look at, is it good to keep doing day and date releases, theater and streaming, or should we start looking to 45 days in theater before we go streaming? You know where I stand on this if you've been listening to us for any length of time. You're leaving money on the table if you put them out day and date. You make your money in one, then you go to the other, then you put it out in physical media, and then you make it a legacy on your
How did it
service.
work back in the old days? You had, back in the good old days, quote unquote, you had theatrical release, then you had VHS rental. Or, a lot of the time sometimes they release video VHS to own, but a lot of times those things were priced for rental places, and then they would go down in price later on, okay?
Exactly. And you made money every step of the way. You basically were reselling.
Get it, and the premium channels would get it and show it a year later,
Look, when someone sells you toilet paper, you pay for that once. They only make their money once. If there was a way they can charge you for it over and over and over again, like every time you sat down at the pot, they would do it. Well, guess what? That's what happens with these movies. We get you at the movie theater. We get you on the video on demand. We get you on the DVD. We get you on the rentals. We get you coming and going. We sell you the same movie 4, 5, 6 times.
Yes.
That's smart. The way they're doing it now, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're putting it out 2 ways at the same time, and they're only making half the money. But this is something Chapek knows, but I think the rest of the industry needs to see it. So, and that's a big part of what the whole ScarJo lawsuit is about.
Yeah.
And they've got to. Disney's in an interesting little situation there because ScarJo is making exactly the same argument I am. We would have made more money on this movie if you'd have put it out 45 days in theater, if you'd have given me the money I had coming to me, and then you put it out on stream.
But
Disney has to argue almost both points. They've got to say, no, you're wrong, even though they know in their heart of hearts she's right, and that's the model they want to go to.
Here's another problem. I think that is the model they want to go to. I think we now have this. People are now scared of going to the movies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because of this new strain of this wonderful gift that keeps on giving, known as the virus, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now I think people who were more ready to start going to movies again are now wanting to stay home. So what do you do as a studio? I don't know. You also have... but it's too bad about Suicide Squad. I guess that just didn't. I mean, I guess Warner Brothers is spinning it as a success, but I don't think it did all that well. That's not
but
to say
you say that people are afraid and so on and so forth, and that's a big argument a lot of people are making. But then you look at Free Guy, and you go, I don't know. A lot of people had no problem going to see that.
Yeah, let me read on this.
Go back a couple months, and no one had a problem going to the theater to see King Kong and Godzilla.
Well, yeah. And look at this. According to Deadline, Free Guy opened at number 1 with $28 million in its first 3 days, opening above expectations, which had it pegged at opening around $15 million. The other 2 new releases, Don't Breathe 2 and Respect, opened at the number 2 spot with $10.6 million and number 4 spot with $8.8 million, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say this: Free Guy strikes me as being a comedy, with Ryan Reynolds as the lead
Oh
comedic
yeah.
actor in it,
Hmm.
right? So comedies, people want good comedies. I've been saying. Deadpool 2. I have to tell you, when I saw that in the theater, I hadn't laughed that hard at a movie in a theater in a long time, and that one, I just lost it. I found that movie hilarious. Did you see Deadpool 2?
Not only did I see Deadpool
Yeah,
2, but I went back and talk about,
yeah. I
selling
saw
me
it.
the same thing over again. I saw Once Upon a Deadpool, which is basically a recut PG-13 version of it.
How
And I'm
is
like,
that version?
it was great. I mean,
Okay,
I would not recommend it as a substitute to.
right.
I would say get both of them. It's a good. If you're gonna rewatch Deadpool 2, rewatch it as Once Upon a Deadpool, because it's got the interesting framing reference of using Fred Savage, kind of
From
reprising. Yeah,
from
from Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, right?
Yeah, in a very Deadpool-esque kind of way, which is very very funny. And yeah, they clean up some things, but they add some other things as well. So I don't know. Part of me wants there to be like hell. They could sell the movie to me a third time. Do Once Upon a Deadpool 2 and do a re-edit that's an R-rated edit that puts both versions together.
Interesting, yeah. Look, Zootopia says, I don't think people are scared. I think they're becoming more discerning. That has that. Well, see, you'll never hear that from the press, though, will you? Okay. I am going to say this. I think Ryan Reynolds. I think Ryan Reynolds, good guy, funny actor. Seems like a down to earth guy too. If you had met him in real life, okay, and he's a great comedic actor. I actually want to see movies he's in. Whereas some of these other stars, I may want to see the movie despite them, and maybe not.
I want to put
because
an
of
even
them,
finer
okay?
point on what Zootopia says here, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say that he's not only is he 100% right, but the shit that they're putting out of Hollywood that's failing, they're using the coof as an excuse. And that's bullshit. It's not the truth, because the good stuff is selling. You cannot make that argument. You can make it, nobody buys it. It's a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, if that was true, then Free Guy would have tanked, and so would King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, that's true. And Godzilla was a big hit, right? I mean,
Exactly. It was a
uh,
huge success.
Godzilla versus Kong. I have to say though, I don't know. I am worried now with a lot of these cities now having these vaccination passport mandates to go indoors in places. That
And
this
that's
could
the
also
other
hurt
thing. Your
box
article
office.
talked about New York.
Yeah,
New York
yeah.
has become freaking dystopia. It's become literally a military state from everything I've heard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we talked a bit about Feige. Apparently, he must still be able to. Okay, because okay, the big news this week. Well, one of the big stories: Anthony Mackie set to return in Captain America 4.
Hoo-hoo.
Anthony Mackie
Yay.
will officially suit up in Marvel Studios' upcoming Captain America 4 movie, co-written by the Falcon and Winter Soldier head writer Malcolm Spielman. Okay,
That's
Mackie.
wonderful, because Falcon and the Winter Soldier did so well. Everybody
Question.
loved that show.
Uh, we say everybody loved it sarcastically. How well did it do ratings wise? Is Disney considering this series a success? Because
I haven't heard anything as far as good numbers for it. By all
there-
accounts that I've heard, it did worse than WandaVision.
then why greenlit like this movie? Okay,
Probably because it was already planned. These things were already in motion 2 years ago. That's why.
Mackie first appeared as Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, in 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and reprised this role in 5 subsequent movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After Chris Evans, Steve Rogers passed on Captain America's shield at the end of Avengers: Endgame, Wilson officially assumed the mantle over the course of the Disney Plus series The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In April, Variety reported that a 4th Captain America movie was in the development, with Spellman handling the script alongside Falcon and Winter Soldier staff writer Dan Musin. No director is yet attached. Okay.
Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, the plans for this was already in place 2 years ago. Okay, and Anthony Mackie had already signed a contract. So if Falcon and the Winter Soldier gets crap numbers and they get cold feet and go, well, maybe we shouldn't do Captain America 4. Well, guess what? Anthony Mackie still makes his money. He's like, I got a contract. You pay me.
Anthony Mackie's a good actor. I think he should be a leading man. He had a great speech a couple years ago when he was explaining what happened to the star system, saying how
Nothing against Anthony Mackie.
I have something against maybe that show, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now too. We've had.
I got nothing against Anthony Mackie. I got nothing against ScarJo. I got nothing against really any of these actors. I mean, some of them are dumbasses that need to keep their mouths shut.
Yes.
But as far as their actual work, what they're actually getting paid to do, they're doing a fine job, right? And so if Falcon and the Winter Soldier sucks and they decide not to do Captain America 4, Anthony Mackie damn well deserves the money that he signed a contract for. And this is what I think a lot of people need to understand about how Hollywood contracts work. This is why we're getting Cruella de Vil 2. Okay, when the movie didn't do that well, and it's not, I think they lost money on that. So why are they greenlighting a sequel? Because they specifically want to give money to what's her name, the actress. Don't sue us. Yeah. We'll give you a sequel. We're probably going to lose money on it, but it's an excuse for us to give you money and take it as a tax write-off.
Wolf Timmy says Anthony is dead to me. He talks too much snoot. I haven't been aware of what he's been saying lately. I just remember from a few years ago I did like his little.
Well, and I'll give you another one. 2 years ago, when they decided to hand off the mantle to
yes, I know
to the Falcon and create, that there were white executives going, "Hey, this will be just like Black Panther. We'll give him another black superhero, and yay, we'll make money because racism."
I was reading comments.
Talk about racism. You don't even understand why Black Panther did well and why nobody likes, Falcon turned Captain America 4. If we were getting a Falcon movie instead of a Captain America 4 movie, you get a whole lot more people excited about it. Let me tell you.
It's funny because I was reading the comments. Actually, I was reading an IGN version of this article just to see if they were censoring comments. But some of the comments were very reasonable. They were saying, like, they don't understand the Falcon becoming Captain America. That's like Superman dies and then the Flash becoming Superman.
Yeah.
Why? They didn't understand
That's exactly right. No, that's an excellent analogy, But I would go, it's even worse. Because there is the racial element, right? He made a name for himself as the Falcon. Yes. And that's just not good enough, because the color of your skin means you're not really able to achieve something on your own. The only way you can achieve something on your own is to have it handed to you by a white guy.
Yeah, Young Ripa, aka Eric D. July, he has a YouTube channel more famous than any of us, but I love his videos. I've been watching him a lot lately. And he was really complaining. I think today or yesterday he was complaining about how in the Birds of Prey movie, they, I believe they cast a black actress as Black Canary, but he says they gave her Vixen's costume. Vixen, who is a black superhero from the DC universe, and he said, "Why didn't they just use Vixen?" Okay,
I mean that's even worse, right?
Yeah,
because first you race swap a character, which upsets people. You get that tokenism thing. So again, in order for you to succeed, you have to be given the role that is supposed to be given to a white person. And screw this original black character that's been around since the 80s that is well beloved, because again, because of the color of your skin, you cannot achieve something on your own. It needs to be given to you by a white person.
Yeah, it's this whole thing is bizarre to me.
That's SJWs for you in a nutshell. And then they call everyone else racist when they are the biggest racists.
The execution of Falcon and Winter Soldier was so mishandled that I have no interest in a movie. I haven't seen it, but I've heard. I did see the final cringy speech that happens in it. But
Wait a
yeah.
minute. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier were killed? I didn't see this show, so I don't know.
No.
Oh, the way they
There's a
executed
speech
it.
at
I
the end of
see.
the show, kind of like it almost reminded me of. Remember how at the end of On Deadly Ground, how Steven Seagal gives a speech?
Yeah.
But it's almost. I don't know. It's kind of a political speech that Falcon gives at the end
Well,
of the
it's
show.
again,
Yeah.
it's also just the bad writing. It's the show don't tell, where all you get is preached at instead of just doing a good story that conveys a message in and of itself.
You're getting a lot of preaching to the audience on a lot of modern television lately. I mean, it
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be more subtle, where it'd be like an element in the story, but now they're just almost directly just preaching. And
Well, this is why I say the industry is changing, and Disney is going to be the front line for that. Bob Chapek is, and look, everything that you're seeing, everything we're talking about with Marvel here, is where Star Wars was 7 years ago. Okay, so this is all now happening with Marvel. Don't worry. I mean, I hate to say this and set him up for failure, but Bob Chapek's got a pretty good plan. If he's able to pull it off, and so far he's been able to, I think you're going to see Star Wars turn around. You're going to see Marvel maybe turn around. Maybe all of Disney turn around.
we'll see. Next article, though. Okay. Humor me on this one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shang-Chi star Simu Liu fires back at Disney CEO over experiment comment. Okay, wow, what's going on here? This sounds pretty intense.
Let's get into this.
No, I'm going to get into this first. Let's read the article, and I have to admit I was on the fence with the whole Chapek thing, but now I'm starting to see where they're coming from. Okay, this is. What did Midnight said you're going to be seeing in the news media lately? You're going to be seeing a lot of articles coming out about Bob Chapek over the next few weeks.
Yeah, let's
No, you know why? Because he's bad. That's why.
Let's kind of back up a second and kind of front load this, right? Let's go back to the previous Bob Chapek thing. Creators are not happy with Bob Chapek. What did I say about who these creators are? They're the SJW pieces of crap that are ruining the whole business. And of course they don't like Chapek because Chapek is calling them on that bullshit. So now let's go ahead and get into this and you'll see exactly where this is coming from.
Simu Liu on Saturday responded to a comment made by Disney CEO Bob Chapek, who said the upcoming Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings was a quote-unquote experiment for the company. Chapek made the remark during an earnings call Thursday while discussing the conglomerate's future plans for theatrical releases, calling Shang-Chi an interesting experiment for us. As the film only has a 45-day theatrical window, Shang-Chi, along with Free Guy, released Friday, will not be made available on Disney Plus Premier Access despite the ongoing pandemic. Liu, who plays Marvel hero Shang-Chi, was not pleased by the comment and responded via social media.
Mm-hmm.
We are not an experiment, he began. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the celebration of culture and joy that will persevere after an embattled year. We are the surprise. I'm fired the F up to make history on September 3rd. Join us. Shang-Chi will arrive on Disney Plus 45 days after its September 3rd release. The prospect of being able to make a Marvel title to the service after going theatrical 45 days will be yet another data point to inform our actions going forward on our titles, Chapek said during the call. Shang-Chi marks Disney's second live-action tentpole feature featuring Asian leads released amid the pandemic. The first was Mulan, which was released September 4th, 2020. That film was available on Disney Plus Premier Access the same day. Okay, I have to say, experiment? Who is he calling an experiment?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Here's exactly what I noticed in that. Okay, I noticed that it did not actually share the quote by Bob Chapek. Do you happen to have that available to you?
I do not. Do you have it available?
I don't. And you know why? Because every time I try to find the quote, I'm finding the mainstream media just sharing that tiny little portion that this guy is getting upset about. But the whole context of it, I wish I could find it. It was in my notes from a couple weeks back. I don't know where it is now. But if you had the actual earnings, well, actually, here's the earnings transcript. Let me see if I can pull that up. Control F, Xperiment. Here it is. Here's the exact quote. This is from the Q3 earnings call. These are exactly Bob Chapek's words. On Shang-Chi, we think it's actually going to be an interesting experiment for us because it's got only a 45-day window for us. So the prospect of being able to take a Marvel title to service after going theatrical within 45 days will be yet another data point to inform our actions going forward on our titles. But once again, I'll refer back to my previous answer. When we planned Shang-Chi, that title was planned on being in a much more healthy theatrical environment. He's not talking about Shang-Chi being some kind of an experiment because of anything racial. He's talking about specifically putting it out 45 days in theater before putting it out on stream, like he did with Black Widow. He's not doing Shang-Chi day and date. That is the experiment. And for anyone to say otherwise, you're a dumbass.
Okay, listen, your facts don't matter to people's feelings, okay? Come on. Think about this, okay?
But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. These are the kind of people that put out a shit product, that want to succeed not because they've done a great job and let their job speak for themselves, but stand on the shape of their eyes and the color of their skin for their success.
I have this image of this actor and ScarJo and Kevin Feige, them like standing around. Nobody likes you, Bob. Just leave. Nobody likes you. Maybe talk a long walk off a short pier, and like they're just, it's like goodbye, Bob. Like I feel like he's being bullied. That's what it feels like. Okay.
Yeah,
like
but what Bob Chapek really is.
Him. Okay.
What Bob Chapek really is he's Alec Baldwin in Glenn Ross. Put down the popcorn. Popcorn is for closers.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying that maybe it's not too smart to be egging on your boss like this, especially that maybe Bob Chapek may not be the push?
Sorry, man. You don't have the sales. You haven't brought in the money, and you're bitching about the fact that you're being called on it, right? And here we have a guy who, if he had any brain cells to put together, he knows this movie is going to tank. Okay, he is not going to be marketable. Okay, because we've already been told China doesn't like him. China doesn't want this movie. It's not going to be released in China. So boom, we've already lost a big market, right? This is already the Mulan route, right? And now we're looking at, well, we're going to try and maximize our dollars on this by putting it out in theaters first and see how it does before we put it out on stream, right? This was something they'd already decided on. These contracts were signed, just from the perspective of a ScarJo situation, right? They've already planned this, so they have no choice in the matter. They have to go 45 days in theaters. So this guy now getting all bent out of shape and trying to make it a racial thing, I'm sorry, I think he needs to read the room, because we've had years now of this kind of racial, accusation, and people going, shut the hell up. This has nothing to do with race, you dumbass.
Here's what I think is going on. I'm wondering if Feige put him up to this too,
Which is exactly what the folks over at Midnight's Edge said about the whole ScarJo thing. ScarJo could have just as easily gone and had her manager go talk to Bob Chapek and the guys and say, look, I'm not happy about this. What are we going to do about this? Or do I have to go to court? And giving Bob Chapek...
They'll work something out, yeah.
Right, and Bob Chapek would go, all right, I'll tell you what we do. We'll sign you up for a 3-movie deal. You'll definitely get this much money, and call it a day. Is that okay? Okay, drop the lawsuit. Okay, fine, we're good. That's how this kind of stuff usually goes.
You'll be in the Cat from Outer Space trilogy.
But you do an end run around Look, since this, I've talked to a couple lawyers that work in,
Right.
in that field, and they've said, yeah, you got to have a really damn good reason to sue your boss, because if you sue your boss, you're pretty much ending your career. No one else is going to hire you. You're certainly not going to get your job back there. And if you did, would you want to work there? Yeah, this was in no way. I understand her financial and legal reason for suing them. I'm not faulting her for that. I'm not one of these people saying, well, you already made enough millions of dollars. No, fuck that. Okay? She can make as much money as she can make. And if she has a deal with them, they need to fucking pay her. But there's a way you go about it. And when you go from zero to lawsuit, you're pretty much saying, I'm pretty much ready to market myself out of the market. And I honestly think, yeah, you're right. It could very well be Kevin Feige, whispering in her ear to do this thing. And if Bob Chapek gets wind of that, Kevin Feige is not long for that company either.
This is what this reminds me of. Do you remember Rocky IV when you have Apollo Creed coming out and he's like, James Brown's playing the song "Living in America." There's all the flash and he's going up against Drago, right? Yeah,
Right.
And he goes up to it and he says, and then he just says, Drago just says to him, "You'll lose." That's what he says.
You'll
and that's
lose.
sort of what
Yeah.
this Feige thing reminds me of. Like
It's like people are operating on two completely different levels. It's like you're going about business as usual and then someone sucker punches you. It's like the hell.
Do you get to be the head of Disney by being a nice guy?
You don't get to be the head of any big company just by being a nice guy. And from a financial standpoint, you don't want him to be a nice guy. And to be honest with you, from the point of view of fans, you don't want him to be a nice guy. You want him to kick people in the balls when they're being stupid and put out a good product.
All right, Auditor Dread, is anyone really talking about Shang-Chi? It's like the marketing team really gave up on the film, and it's supposed to release next month. I have to say,
you go to Target, you go to Walmart, and look for the Shang-Chi toys. You know where you're going to find them? On the end cap in the clearance section. I haven't seen that since Captain Man-Pants.
Yeah. Let's see. Wolf Media says, only pull the race card when all options are exhausted. Never at the beginning when you have huge amounts of options and resources. Well, they seem to go right at it from the get-go here. I don't...
No, I think this guy knows this movie is going to tank. He knows that he's...
It's all Chapek's fault for not having faith because he doesn't like Asians. I mean, that's kind of how they're trying to spin this. Right?
That does seem like how he's trying to put it. And and I'm sorry, but I just read you the quote. It is very clear that's not what he is saying. I'm not even saying that's not what he meant. He didn't say that. He said something completely different. And for you to make it about race, you've got to really shove your head up your ass to come up with that kind of logic.
Anyway.
So this is where it gets interesting, though, right? Because now we have Shang-Chi coming out 45 days in the theater, and then it's going to go to Disney Plus streaming, and it's gonna tank. We all know that. So this is interesting. On the one hand, we're saying we know this is the winning formula, but on the other hand, we're saying, but this movie's going to suck no matter what. It's not going to do well no matter how they market it, no matter how they release it. So I think that Disney, if they're smart, and I think their lawyers are, they're going to go into this whole ScarJo thing. And ScarJo is making the argument, well, if you'd put my movie out 45 days, full theatric release first, and then gone to Disney Plus, I would have made, $20 million more, so you owe me $20 million. And Disney comes in and says, yeah, well, we just released Shang-Chi for 45 days, and it tanked. So that supports the idea that people aren't ready to go back to theaters. So no, you wouldn't have made that money.
That's what he means by, I think, what he was saying, experiment. Let's see if this actually does make the money that's supposed to. Okay, but oh look, Melissa Harris's Shang-Chi toys wind up in a landfill and the dumps next.
Yeah.
Let's see. Auto Dread says the lead actor of Shang-Chi is a bit of an idiot. He doesn't research or fact check before commenting or making a comment. No,
that's kind of what I'm seeing here.
I'm telling you though. No, I think Feige is like he's like the head of the pack, and he's telling those actors, "We're going to get rid of this Bob Chapek."
But he doesn't even have the capital, the social capital that Kathleen Kennedy has. So Kathleen Kennedy lost that battle. He's going to lose it even harder and faster.
Well, wait a minute here, though. But let's look at Kevin Feige. I know from Kevin Feige's point of view, those are the last two Avengers movies, and even going up, they did, whether or not we like the quality of them, they did big box office, okay? And I think he credits himself with that. And now he's seeing all this stuff happening.
Sure, he probably believes that he was responsible for it.
Yes.
When you ride someone, and I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy believes that she's responsible for Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
From back in
that doesn't make it true, right? Star Wars was George Lucas, and Indiana Jones was Lucas and Spielberg. Okay? And she's just trying to take credit for it. Well, guess what? The Marvel Universe was not Kevin Feige. It was Jon Favreau. And when Jon Favreau left to go work on The Mandalorian, that's when we got Captain Marvel under Feige. That was his first movie.
Big hit.
And it has been downhill since then.
That movie was a big hit.
Well,
I've never seen so many people buying tickets for a movie they didn't.
Yeah, everyone can make that argument, and Disney can try to make that spin to their investors, but Bob Chapek is sitting there seeing the reality of it.
But yeah, I don't know though. I'm not in the mood to go out to theaters right now.
I'm not in the mood to go to theaters because they're not playing anything that I'm interested in. I mean, okay, so Big Al did a great review of Free Guy. But I had no idea what it really was because I haven't been in the theater, so I haven't seen the previews of anything. You know, it used to be you'd go to the theater to see the big movie you want to see, and then you'd see like 5 or 6 previews, and 1 or 2 of them would be like, well, that sounds really interesting. And then when it comes out at the theater, I say to Annette, hey, remember that Free Guy thing that we saw at the beginning of, King Kong or whatever? Yeah, let's go see that one. Okay, let's go, Well, we didn't have that because we haven't been going to movies. We don't have. So the only movies that I'm looking forward to are ones we've been waiting on for so long and we're so hyped about. Ghostbusters Afterlife and Dune. Those are the only two.
Because, I do want to see Many Saints of Newark, too. The Sopranos.
Oh, I keep forgetting that's a movie and not a new series.
I'm getting worried that everybody else is thinking like you are, and they don't realize this is supposed to be a theatrical movie that you're supposed to go to the theater to see. But we'll see.
But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That's part of the marketing problem that they're having right now, that they need to find a way around. They've got to rebuild the momentum, right? I mean, if you've got a big paddle wheel, right? You got a flywheel that keeps it going with momentum. But if it stops, it takes a lot of work to get it up and running again.
Gotcha.
And that's how Hollywood is with this right now. They got to get that flywheel spinning again.
Well, Wolfton's saying you have the internet now for trailers. I know we do, but you know what the funny thing about that is, though? I've been noticing I'm not watching trailers immediately like I used to either. Like years ago, I might have tried catching a trailer, like even when I was in my 20s when they had weird setups on
this
sites,
is my point, though, Wolfie.
Yeah.
Yes, they're out there, but I only go, it wasn't until someone said, hey, have you seen the new Ghostbusters trailer? Oh, there's a new Ghostbusters trailer? And I literally type in to go to the Ghostbusters site to watch the Ghostbusters trailer. It's not like I'm going to find out about some movie I've never heard about through its trailer that I'm not seeing anywhere. It's not like I went to a movie, for, I don't know, The Conjuring, and they're doing a trailer for some other Blumhouse film. Okay, now I know there's another Blumhouse film that I can go watch. These things are basically happening in isolation with nothing before them getting me to be aware
I think
of
what
it.
it is there's a hype factor. You have the internet trailer, like you might want to go see the trailer again, but seeing it on the big screen is a different scenario. I
Yeah.
think the hype train for a lot of these movies isn't there. I think a lot of the part of the problem is a lot of these movies were supposed to come out a while ago, and you keep in the back of your head, you keep thinking I'm getting older movies now.
Yeah.
Except for like Ghostbusters, where they were very careful not to reveal too much about the movie, which might end up working in its favor now that it's.
Yeah.
That still feels like a relatively new movie, even though it probably isn't. I don't know. But this was not a good week for the country. What do you think? For various things. Okay.
Well,
I was in a bad mood. Okay.
Well, I've shared this with you both backstage and occasionally on the air too, that before we do this stream, I'm over watching Viva Barnes, Viva on Viva Fry's YouTube channel, Viva Fry and Robert Barnes, a couple of attorneys that break down the week in news, specifically in law and politics and whatnot. And honestly, it's actually been a pretty good week from the point of view of legal things. There's been a lot of bad things that we've all been upset about in this country,
Right.
but our legal system is actually doing its job finally. And a lot of this shit that we're pissed about is getting overturned. And,
Good.
these little fiefdoms are being put in their place, and they're saying, yeah, you don't like what the Constitution says, you need to try to make an amendment. You don't just make some other law to try to go around it.
Who's the gardener YouTuber? The one who was big in gardening. Remember you showed me her page. Remember her?
Oh yeah, Trillium.
Yeah, Trillium. She had a video. How do you know
She gets political every once in a while, but that's not really the focus
She's
of her
usually
channel.
happy a lot of the time. Like she always has a smile.
She is an incredibly happy person. If nothing else,
she
just
was-
watching her dig up some flower bulbs and talk about it, and
She
then
was
she'll.
furious the other day about
Was she?
the current news topics, like what's going on across the seas in Afghanistan and
Oh,
our
yeah.
pullout and all that. She was furious.
Oh yeah,
And-
well you should be pissed
Well, that's
about.
my
Yeah.
point. That was there because I was in a bad mood this week too, and
Yeah, there's thousands of Americans that are going to die overseas because we have a commander in chief who's a dumb fuck. He's just a drooling idiot who, has no clue.
yeah. And well, basically though, I was in a.
Actually, I made the comparison to pulling out of Vietnam and the last chopper out of Saigon, and actually, this is way worse.
Yeah.
This is way worse.
I mean, I don't know how it would have gone down if it had happened while how it was supposed to be planned originally. Because I don't know if there was ever going to be a good end to this, but at least we want to save some face. But we're not saving any face on this. And
plus the fact that he didn't even consult Britain and
they're furious.
Canada and
They're
them,
furious
and
at
their
us.
guys got left behind too. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
They are not happy with us right now. So basically, that's why I'm even thinking with this Captain America movie, whoever's going to be Captain America, Steve Rogers or not, is anyone even going to be in the mood to see a Captain America movie in a couple of years? I don't know.
I mean, since you brought up the whole, you're the one that brought up the political topic.
I tried not to.
I had posted a meme that I created on MeWe. It's the quote from Biden back on June 23rd when he was talking about gun violence. He goes, if you think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. Well, guess what? On August 18th, several Republican senators demanded the Department of Defense provide a full accounting over the weapons and equipment that were captured by the Taliban, considered by several agencies as a terrorist organization. Photos have circulated of Taliban members holding American M4 carbines, M16 rifles, rather than AK-47s or AKMs. Other images and videos showed the Taliban surrounding U.S. Black Hawk helicopters and A-29 Super Tucano attack aircraft.
I don't care who's.
And I'm sitting here going, well, guess what then? You just gave the frickin' Taliban exactly what you said we would need to take on the government. And my note was no word yet if Biden left any nukes behind in Afghanistan.
Well, I hope we weren't that stupid, but who knows?
I at this point would not
Uh,
make any assumptions about the level of stupidity this administration is capable of.
Stepson Jason's half brother lost his legs in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, and we do appreciate his service. It's just that's awful.
We
And
appreciate his service, but apparently this
yeah, well,
administration doesn't. Because
anyway,
his sacrifice was meaningless because of what this administration just did. You remember that when you go to the voting booth in 2022 and 2024.
anyway, I am not happy about this, and I'd be angry whoever president was if this happened under them. But I was in a bad mood, and Thursday I had to go, and I went to the dentist, and that's never fun, even when it's routine. And I come home, and there were rumors circulating that there was going to be a big announcement at QuakeCon this week.
Oh,
Okay, and and the rumor was that it was going to be an announcement about actual Quake. QuakeCon's been going on for a while, but there hasn't been much Quake because this is kind of a forgotten.
I was just going to say there's a whole con dedicated to one game franchise.
No, it started out that way, then it moved on to other FPSs and.
Oh, okay. I'm misunderstanding based on the name.
Big announcement this week: Quake Remaster announced for PC and consoles. I think the other week we were doing the Boomer Shooters thing. Did I even talk about Quake? Saying I want Quake back, bring Quake back. I think I might have even said that. And
then they actually did it.
Here it is. I'm very happy. Bethesda Softworks and developer ID Software announced a Quake Remaster via leaked store pages ahead of an official announcement today. The new Quake Remaster is available now on Windows PC, Xbox One via the Xbox Store, and PlayStation 4 via the PlayStation Store, and Nintendo Switch via the eShop. Xbox Series X, S, and PlayStation 5 versions are coming soon as a free upgrade. It's always nice when they give you the free upgrade instead of charging you. Activision, I'm looking at you. Anyway, the game will also be on Xbox Game Pass. Lastly, if you own the original Quake on Steam, the game has been updated to the Quake Remaster entirely free. You can find that here in the Steam store.
I gotta say that is such good news. It makes me think it's some sort of a joke or something. It's like they're gonna pull the rug out and say, "Ha, fooled you."
There's rug pulling, but it's rug pulling in a good way. Well, at least there's more reveals that are even better than this. Okay.
Wow.
You can find that here in the Steam store. You can find the rundown via the Microsoft below. Developed by the award-winning id Software. Quake is the groundbreaking original dark fantasy first-person shooter that inspires today's retro-style first-person shooter games. Deborah and I was saying they're like newer games being made in that style.
Yeah,
it's mainly because of Quake. I mean, there are other games too that they're inspired by too, but that's
right.
a big one. Now experience the authentic, updated, and visually enhanced version of the original. Experience the original game enhanced. Enjoy the original authentic version of Quake, now with up to 4K and widescreen resolution support. Enhanced models, dynamic and colored lighting, anti-aliasing, depth of field, the original atmospheric soundtrack and theme song by Trent Reznor, and more.
This is the kind of thing. I mean, to say it does my heart good is kind of underselling it. I mean, we've talked about games being updated by fans, and the companies coming along and not shutting them down, but saying, "Hey, can we just take this and make it available?"
Yeah.
And the fans are like, okay. Nobody makes any money off of it, but it generates so freaking much goodwill. The fans put in this work, so they get the credit. The company takes it and makes it freely available to everybody. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here. There was actually probably some effort.
Sort of. I'm going to get into that.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to get ahead of you.
Well, no. Okay, but there's never been a better time to play Quake. Play the Dark Fantasy campaign. You are a ranger, a warrior armed with powerful arsenal weapons, fight corrupted knights, deformed ogres, and an army of twisted creatures across 4 dimensions of infested military bases, ancient medieval castles, lava-filled dungeons, and Gothic cathedrals in search of the 4 magic ruins. Only after you have collected the ruins will hold the power to defeat the ancient evil that threatens all of humanity. Okay. Get the original and new expansion packs. Let me explain this to you. They're giving you the old expansion packs. So it comes with both original expansion packs as well as 2 expansion packs developed by the award-winning team of Machine Games, Dimension of the Past and All New Dimension of Fear. So they're giving you new stuff too, along with this. Okay.
Yeah, and is that not what fans are basically clamoring about, because they basically
Yeah.
say, look, we could argue about whether or not we like the new stuff, and even if we don't like it, just let us keep the old stuff. Don't take it away from us.
When this company released the Doom 1 and 2 re-releases, all throughout the years, people have been making, I don't know if mods is the correct thing, but they've been making new Doom campaigns on their own and releasing them.
Sure.
And they've actually been making them available for you to download with Doom 1 and 2. I think they're going to do the same thing with this Quake game. Okay?
I do too. Yeah.
So, and for free, you get a lot of free content with this game. It's only $9.99. If you wait for it to go on sale, it'll probably be half that. Okay, and here you go. Download additional free mods and missions. Expand your experience with free curated, fan-made, and official mods and missions such as. Let me talk to you a little bit about my own personal history with Quake. I'm not a PC guy, you know this,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I had a Nintendo 64 back in the day, and we got a version of Quake on the Nintendo 64 called Quake 64. And it ran pretty well. It was a decent version of Quake. I think it was missing 5 of the levels from the PC version. It didn't have the Trent Reznor score, but they got Aubrey Hodges to do the score. He's also very good because I think they had to make it for cartridge. So, and he's also very good at doing this dark ambient music like Trent Reznor. So, it's a comparable score to the Trent Reznor score, in my opinion. Some people like it better. Some people like the Trent Reznor score better. But it was really cool. And when I first I think I was watching Stephanie Janicek's live stream, and I was going, and while I was listening to that, I saw the news about Quake, and I briefly was watching the trailer for the new game. And I'm like, I don't even have to think about this. I'm paying for it, downloading it right now. Okay, download it. I go into the option screens because they have all these options. Like, is there a sound option for the Aubrey Hodges score from Quake 64 on here? No, well, that's okay. I knew that was asking too much. I then decide, I wonder if there's any free content available. I go to the free content section. Quake 64. The entire Nintendo 64 game that I had on my Nintendo 64 is there as a free download with the Aubrey Hodges score. And
you still get it.
I still get my entire Nintendo 64 version. Now, granted, it's not going to be as good as the PC version, but it's cool that it's there, and you can actually compare and contrast what they were able to do on the Nintendo 64, and it has the Aubrey Hodges soundtrack. So only 9. So they gave me the game I grew up with along with the enhanced PC version.
I can tell you, we were one of the other things we were talking about when we were talking about old games was I was talking about Ultima, and I was kind of ripping on you, saying you don't always have to get the console stuff, because there's emulators on PC. Well, the thing about some of these emulators is sometimes you get the emulator, but you don't get like the music. So I can play like Ultima 4, but I don't get the music. But what I can do is I can separately download that music. And I can, if I want to, when I go into the dungeon, I can play the dungeon music. Or when I go into a combat, I can play the combat music. But the real reason that I want it, and we're talking like 32-bit type music here,
sure.
But I still love it, I used to like using the combat music. Dun da 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 dun 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 da da. I used to play that during Dungeons and Dragons games when we have our combats.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of these people like the old electronic scores. And to be fair, by the time they got to Nintendo 64, they were using MIDI now. They were able to use MIDI with those cartridges.
Yeah.
So but there's also limited cartridge space. So this guy was a genius how he was able to make these really ambient scores and put them on the cartridge.
Oh, yeah.
They recently released Doom 64, which was the exclusive Doom game made for the Nintendo 64 that was made available last year. And now they gave us Quake this year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think we'll get Quake 2 next year. I think they'll do it, which is also a great game. It's very different from this game. I have to say, though, one thing I didn't like about this article, they call it a dark fantasy. This is a horror game, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I think you might be splitting hairs there, but I do see your point.
This world you're stuck in, your human character, I don't want to be there. It's horrible, scary-looking castles. You have these ogres walking around with chainsaws.
No, you're right. It is. It is like you've gone into a hell dimension. That's true.
But they probably don't want to say that because they don't want to have you think it's like Doom, even though it kind of is in a way. It's by the same people that made Doom.
Right.
And there's all sorts of horrible things. There are these zombies here. I got to tell you, I like video games and computer games. I'm not good at them. We had the argument the other week. Remember, I was talking about how I hate how they're trying to hold your hand. This version does not hold your hand. I picked normal mode. I must have gone through level 3 at least 20 times, maybe
Mm-hmm.
more, just to get through it. But that's what I love about these games. You can get your butt kicked and then just start over and start again and again and again. It's almost like that movie, that Tom Cruise movie with Emily Blunt, the Live, Die, Repeat. You know
Yeah.
that one? Did you see that? I think in many ways that movie best encapsulates what it's like living in a video game, because you get killed and then you start over again and you get killed and you
Yeah.
start over again until you beat the level, and then you go on to level 4 and I'm going to get my butt kicked, probably worse. But that's what I love about these old first person shooters, and I'm glad that they're having a resurgence and that they're making new shooters in this style as well, and I'm very excited. And this is what I needed this week. I need to be stuck in this hell dimension fighting these horrible things.
Oh
And
gosh,
just
the news has been so bad that being stuck in a hell dimension fighting demons
I
is an escape for you.
well, I'm sure they would argue, well, they're technically not demons, they're zombies and ogres and other horrible things you have and these other things called, like, these wraith creatures which make this horrible noise like, you like this hissing noise, and they come at you.
Zombies and ogres and wraiths. Oh my.
Yeah, it's just it's terrible. I remember being obsessed with it on the Nintendo 64, and now I get to play it again. And I hope a new generation gets to experience this. It's full on multiplayer online too, if you're into the online playing, and it's also cross play on all platforms. So if you're playing on your Nintendo Switch and want to play with somebody on the Xbox or PlayStation, have at it. Okay, I think even on PlayStation, I know Sony used to block that, but I think now you can even play versus people. So funny, a Nintendo owner and a Microsoft owner can go up against each other. It's kind of neat. So, and I heard even the Switch version of this is very good. It goes up to 1080p. So, it's cool. It was good news this week. I'm very happy. I don't know if I can get you into Quake or not, Troy, but
Maybe.
you'll think about it. But what I thought was cool though was that if you had the Steam copy, I didn't realize you get a free upgrade, which was neat. You know, they didn't just make you pay for it twice. They say you already bought it, we're going to give it to you again. You know, so they'll give you the upgrade for free. So cool. This is Goodwill by Bethesda.
Yeah.
Microsoft now owns Bethesda, but it's cool they're still having this stuff get released on other platforms, and it makes me interested to see if they're going to make a new Quake game. We'll see. I know that Doom had a resurgence, maybe Quake will as well, so we'll see. But highly recommend Quake if you've never played it, or if you like grueling, old school, but also very fast first-person shooters. I highly recommend this game, and that put me in a good mood this week. Okay, so there you go. After all the horrible news. Okay.
Exactly. All right. That's all I had on my docket.
Oh yeah, Castlevania games later had the Frankenstein monster with a chainsaw. That was Castlevania 64. I know that game gets attacked a lot, and probably for good reason, because there's some, I don't know, but I do remember that. Yeah, the Legacy of Darkness was this. Quake is not a dark fantasy. I agree with you, Wolf Ted. That's the article. I'm telling you, I think they're afraid that people are going to think it's like Doom, and they're not going to want to buy it, even though this game is almost as old as Doom by the same people.
But at the
It's
same
just a,
time, who is this for, though? This is for people that were already fans of it and know exactly what it is.
But
So,
not only that, though, but I one YouTuber I watch sometimes named Dreamcast Guy, because like the gaming community has its own YouTubers. He was actually remarking about this new Quake game, saying it almost feels like a new game. And that's because you have upgraded textures and all this other stuff. If you want, though, there are options in the menu where you can downgrade it to look like the old PC version with all the, like, some of the
that I
stuttering
think
graphics.
is amazing because
Yeah.
sometimes that's fun.
Yeah, you could actually take all the bells and whistles off and play it like it was back in the day, or put all the stuff back in and see how it plays with all the new stuff. And it's, like I said, old and new fans alike should like this game, and I highly recommend it. Okay,
Yeah.
it
All
is
right.
like Doom. It's made for the people. I know it is. I'm telling you, when I had Doom 64 and I got this, and it's like, this is like Doom, but I can look around in all directions and can jump. You know, that's what I thought. You know, it's still horrible. There's still horrible things, and the weapons are a bit different. Like, you have a nail gun instead of a machine gun, which I think is because of 9-inch nails. It's a I guess it's a.
But at the
I
same
could be wrong.
time, this is another example of what I was talking about before, selling you the same thing twice. You know, how many games are basically all the same game, just using the same engine, just changing the characters and whatever, the storyline.
And they
It's,
sold it to me twice too because I bought it originally on the Nintendo
yeah.
64. But they
And,
gave me,
and
but they
even
gave
when
it
you're
back.
aware of it, you're like, that's okay.
Plus, let's be honest here. Try hooking a Nintendo 64 up to a modern TV. It's not going to be pretty. It really
It's
isn't.
kind of
That thing
funny.
had S video at best. Okay.
Yeah.
And even none of these new TVs, I think, even if S video do they. It's
No.
just, if you're lucky, you'll get a component input. But no, I'm just, that's what I like. Just make the old games available. And if you're interested, Limited Run Games is making a physical edition for the Switch. If you want to pay through the nose, I say just get the digital version. It's only $10, probably $5 when it's on sale. Just have a blast. And that's it.
Yep.
But Quake is cool. Okay. And I don't. You got anything else to say? I guess we're running out that time, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock. What do you got going on this week?
Well, I'm not sure about Wednesday because I don't know if I have a D&D game, and I also don't know if I have a Soundtracks with Birdman to watch. You tell me.
Well, we are going to try for the third week in a row. He's been having weather problems. I'm not
I know.
telling you.
I'm just
When
saying.
a tornado, I'm telling you, after this, we need to do either a Twister rewatch or a Wizard of Oz rewatch. Okay, because he's been having tornado warnings, so he always gets these alerts on his nights. But we're going to be doing a Burbs rewatch with Big Al. Okay, so be sure to check that out. And I think Big Al has a stream this Saturday. And Excalibur,
yes.
right?
We're going to be watching Excalibur. I'm excited about
special
that.
guests on that night? You don't know yet? Okay.
We have somebody.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
Are you on?
It's not
I
going
don't
to be
know.
me. So I don't know if it's
Okay.
going to be anybody else, but he mentioned someone to me, but I'm not going to say who it is, but unless he already contacted that person. But let's see what.
Let's just because let's face it, everybody's got their availability and
Yeah, me too. That's why I'd like to come on the stream every Saturday, but I'm usually busy Saturdays. But I had an exception the past few weeks because it was you did Amityville. I had to come out for Amityville because plus Daniel's like, well, we should do both the Omen original and Omen remake, and I'm like, you know what? Since Nanette and Troy and them are doing Amityville, we'll skip Amityville for the Satan month rewatch or the Halloween month rewatch.
That's the other thing. I'm sitting there. We just came to Amityville because it was like in the A's for Netter, and then you were all like, hey, can I be in on that? I'm like, yeah, I guess. I had no way of knowing this was a big deal for you.
Gotcha. Oh no, Amityville I love because it is kind of a bad film, but I still enjoy it because it was part of my childhood. And
I love Skipper Kenner's comment on the video too. That was just brilliant. I'm like, exactly, I know.
Skipper Kenner. Oh yeah, I know. It was a big thing back in the day, but
yeah, I pray for ghosts, but I hear noises at night, and it's an expensive house repair.
And it's not to say Daniel I will never do an Amityville rewatch, but I figured not like a couple months right after Troy and Annette did that, and I figured he wants to do the Omen original and Omen remake, which he's going to be. That'll be interesting to do the remake the week after, and he'll figure out why when we do it. Okay, but anyway,
I would rather see Omen, Omen 2, and Omen 3. Final Conflict.
Here's the thing, I love Omen 2. That's actually a good sequel.
Yeah.
Omen 3 completely dropped the ball, and I feel awful because the casting was perfect. Sam Neill as the adult Damien, perfect. Okay.
Have you read the books?
They're books?
Oh, yeah.
I know. Are they based on the movie, or are they written before the movie?
I am not sure.
Because, I'm sorry, when we get to adult Damien, who I guess he's the Antichrist,
yeah,
it should be World War III. Okay.
Yeah.
It should be everything is going and he's consolidating his power. And they were setting this up in part 2.
Yeah.
And then we got to 3, and it's more like he's becoming the leader, but he's not there yet.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just off him, and I'm like, come on, really? But I mean, there are good parts of that movie too. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying I was expecting a bigger scale. If it's Armageddon, let's see Armageddon.
The
right?
thing
okay?
about
It's like,
the thing about Yeah, you asked me if the movies were based on books or if the books were based on the movies. I'll be honest with you. Back then, there were a lot of novelizations of movies where
That were
sometimes those
different.
novelizations were actually better than the actual movies.
I that would be an interesting. I don't know if anybody had an idea for like a thing, but like a series to do reviews of novelizations of movies. There's a horror movie I love called The Fun House. It's a Tobe Hooper slasher movie from the early '80s, and there was a novelization made, and I heard the novelization is completely different, and I'm very curious about that novelization. But you can't get your hands on these. Now that we have Kindles though and stuff like that, these things should be made available
Well,
easily,
I mean,
right?
it's
I
like
mean,
there's a I don't remember who it was. It might have even been you, Boomer. I'm not sure. Who we were talking about, or maybe it was somebody over on Midnight's Edge. They were talking about Flash Gordon. You know that '80s film,
yeah.
and you know people love that movie. It's campy, it's silly. Maybe it was. I think it might have been Tom Connors who was saying if you can find the novelization of it, it is
Ah,
really good. There's a whole bunch of scenes in there that weren't in the movie. He doesn't know if they were in the original script and were dropped, if they were ever filmed and not, used. But there's a lot of really good content. But unfortunately, it's out of print and it's very, very hard to find. So if you can find it, definitely look into it.
I think there was a novelization of one of the Rocky movies that was written by Stallone.
Really.
I think I heard that. Yeah. Oh, Agemer says you just summarized American Horror Story Apocalypse. That doesn't surprise me. I need to catch up on older seasons of that. That's always a mixed show for me, but I at least get a kick out of the first half of each season.
I'll
Okay,
tell you, the
then they
first
get
couple
weird.
seasons of that were excellent, but I dropped off before they got to that
That what?
was it Apocalypse? There was one that was that they started the marketing. It was going to be based on the 2020 election. I said, "Fuck it, I'm out." If that's how you're marketing it, I want
Well,
nothing to
I
do
have
with
to
it.
watch it though because for all I know, it's making fun of people's horrible reactions to the 2020 election. Right? I don't know. I'd have to see. I'd have to see it first to know if it's going to be woke or if it's going to be more just making fun of the whole situation. I don't know. Like I
Yeah,
said, maybe it is because I'm almost wondering is it making fun of the way the left is freaked out? I don't know and like them going nuts because of it. I
yeah.
don't know. I
I have a
don't
hard
know.
time believing that, but I'll tell you, they had what was it? There was the Asylum,
I
and
remember
there
the
was
Asylum season. Yeah.
and the other one where they had and the Freak Show or whatever it was, and they
Oh,
were taking
okay.
place contemporaneously, and they had the character of Pepper, and I just love that character so much,
Everybody loved Pepper.
and
And then she showed up in Freak Show later on. They did it was a prequel series, right?
that's what it
I
was,
think
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. Pepper
But
was interesting.
I when her character died, I just ugly cried. I really did. That just broke me. And it was one of those things where you're like, man, they call it American Horror Story, but there's so much drama here. It's not just a horror show, you know.
Wolfted says it does make sense when you watch it. Like I said, I don't know. I'd like to think the writer is smarter than just making it all about Orange Man bad. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I don't know. I have to catch up on American Horror Story. They did one called 1984. Of course, it's based on '80s slasher movies, and it takes place in the summer camp.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But like I said, I have to get caught up on them. But we'll see. There's always stuff to watch, even when you're getting annoyed at the current stuff out there. I'm sure if I need to watch the Orville. Everyone keeps saying how good the Orville is. The Orville is probably new Star Trek, and I just need to watch it and just enjoy it. Right?
Did you hear that the Orville is coming to Disney Plus?
That's right.
Actually overseas though.
Okay, but I'm hoping that Disney, someone over there understands what they have there. That in some ways they basically own the Star Trek in a way, right?
Yeah, the real Star Trek.
So just acknowledge that you own something good and maybe keep it on just for goodwill, like Bethesda did with this Quake release. Okay, goodwill helps, especially when you've lost some of it over the years. Okay,
Yeah. So
all right.
one last thing I'll say about Seth MacFarlane. I do yourself a favor. Do a search and try to find. He did on the Graham Norton show. He did an impersonation of Kermit the Frog doing the line, that famous line that Liam Neeson does in Taken. You know, I got a certain set of skills. And like I said, he does that as Kermit the Frog. It is so funny. I laughed so hard I had tears coming down my eyes, out of my eyes.
Oh, that's funny. Like the Liam Neeson line, but with Kermit the Frog.
Got a certain set of skills, and it's just hysterical.
If you get a chance sometime, watch Bruce Campbell doing a Liam Neeson impersonation. It's funny.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Oh, Wolf 10, you got streams coming on this week too. Feel free to post if you'd like.
Dude, I got to keep reminding this guy. You got a blue wrench on my channel, on Netter's channel, on Age of Boomer's channel. The reason we gave it to you was specifically so you could share the link to your channel. Do that for us.
I don't always get a chance, but I try to listen to him when I get. He's got a good group going there too.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think what else is going on. Nothing else this week, but like I said, tune in to Wednesday for the Burbs if you get a chance.
Yep.
But
and Friday, I don't know what I'll be talking about, but guys, you know, you come in and you ask me if I'm drinking. You want to catch me at my drunkenness? It's Friday. Friday is the night to watch me.
I'm telling you, there's a movie I want to do a rewatch with you. But I gotta get you.
You gotta wait until I've been drinking.
I think so. I don't think you've heard of this movie though, but I want to get you to make a promise. And
dude, you've gotta tell me what it is, otherwise I can't get the movie to watch it.
Well, I know, but we'll figure it out.
But you gotta get me committed after I've been drinking.
You know what this movie is? And granted, I don't know if this makes sense, but I don't know if you're doing anything funny around Halloween time. But there's a movie called The Beyond by director Lucio Fulci. And in my opinion, this is
some sort of a horror movie.
Oh, it's. I would argue it may be the horror movie. But here's the deal. You know how like the Amityville Horror made a lot of promises and it doesn't like.
Yeah.
This movie, there's something horrible happening every 5 minutes, and it's one of these Italian horror movies, but it's in English because they always overdub them or they're leaving.
Right.
And it has such a cult following, and it got re-released, I think, over here in the I think late '90s, early 2000s. I think Tarantino got the official unrated cut released over here, and it's something to be seen. I'm just going to summarize what the plot is. You know what the plot is? No. Joe the plumber opens up the gateway to hell. That's the plot of the movie.
This does sound like I'm going to need a few drinks.
Actually, do you remember a movie called Zombie? A zombie movie called Zombie from the 70s?
No.
You may have heard of it. We're Ready to Eat You. You used to see the cover in the video store with the grody-looking zombie.
No, I'm sorry, I don't. But
okay, well, never mind.
Well, anyway. No, and I'm telling you, I mean, I'm open to some crazy ideas. A week from Saturday,
Actually, I can always do it on this channel one night. Not that we're news.
Well, that's true. A week from Saturday, Netter's already made her announcement for the next rewatch, and it's Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a zombie musical.
I've never heard of that movie.
I hadn't either, but we saw it, and it was flipping phenomenal. Totally worth checking out. So you can watch it with us in a couple weeks. Joshua V says, take it easy, Joshua V. Take care. And Auditor Dread is making a pitch for Velocipaster. I've heard that one bandied about a couple times. Chris P., you're a little late to the game. We're just wrapping up. But we're still glad to have you here.
We have that in the library system. I saw that, and I'm like, he's part raptor and part, I guess, Christian pastor, and I'd love to hear his thoughts on never mind on creationism. But I'm just saying, and he's part. What is he? He's part pastor, part raptor, and he's fighting a clan of ninjas. Does that make any sense to you? That sounds like a trauma movie.
I don't know if it's got nunchucks in there and boobs. I say let's do it. I mean, that sounds like the movie that Tom Connors is always trying to do. You know, we need dinosaurs with nunchucks and boobs, and we got a movie. Let's do this thing.
Anyway, hi, Chris P. We're heading out now. Wolf has shifted gears this time with the inception of Wolf Commander Rambles. Yes, I know. We remember that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool beans. All right. Well, we got to be heading out though. But y'all have a good night. It's been great having you.
Yeah.
And not a terrible news week. Like I said, I'm hoping that Bob Chapek keep picking a fight with them people, and you may
Yeah.
feel out.
And here's the prediction going forward. All the people that are giving shit to Bob Chapek are the people that are on their way pretty much out of the industry. They're out of they're leaving Disney, they're leaving the industry because Chapek is going to be ushering in, the stuff that you really want to see actually.
Oh, Autodress says he went to China where he becomes a raptor. I need to watch this movie. Okay.
Oh gosh, guys. Okay, I'll look into this Velocipaster.
This may have to happen. Is Eric
We
Roberts
may have
in
to
it?
do it.
Actually, remember how you were saying Eric Roberts was in a bunch of movies that he shouldn't be in?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
I think we need to do
Eric Roberts rewatch or something.
we need to do a double feature. We'll do Velocipaster and Ouija Shark.
Oh yeah, that'd be funny. Okay. All right, catch y'all later. Have a good night, y'all.
Night, everyone. Bye bye.